Funeral processions. Funeral processions are organized groups of vehicles that travel together from a funeral service location to a cemetery or burial site. These processions are a way for family and friends to accompany the deceased on their final journey and to show respect for the life of the person who has passed away. Because funeral processions involve multiple vehicles traveling together, special driving rules apply to help ensure the safety of everyone on the road. Drivers must understand how to recognize funeral processions and how to interact with them safely and respectfully. In this lesson, we will discuss how funeral processions work, how to identify them, and what drivers should do when encountering one on the roadway. What is a funeral procession? A funeral procession is a line of vehicles traveling together, typically led by a funeral escort vehicle or a lead car from the funeral home. The lead vehicle often controls the pace of the procession and may be accompanied by police escorts or vehicles with flashing lights. Vehicles in the procession usually travel closely together to remain part of the group. Many vehicles in the procession will have their headlights on and may display funeral flags or hazard lights to indicate they are part of the procession. The purpose of keeping vehicles together is to ensure that everyone traveling to the cemetery arrives safely and at the same time. Because of the emotional nature of these events, other drivers should approach funeral processions with patience and respect. Right of way for funeral processions. In many states, including Maryland, funeral processions are given certain right-of-way considerations. Once the lead vehicle has entered an intersection legally, the rest of the vehicles in the procession are generally allowed to follow through the intersection. This helps keep the procession together and prevents vehicles from becoming separated. However, drivers who are not part of the procession should never attempt to drive through or break into a funeral procession. Cutting into a procession can create confusion and increase the risk of a crash. If you encounter a funeral procession at an intersection, allow the entire line of vehicles to pass before proceeding. Even if a traffic light changes, drivers should wait for the procession to continue through safely. How to identify a funeral procession? Drivers can usually recognize a funeral procession by several common features. The lead vehicle may display flashing lights or be escorted by police or funeral staff. Vehicles in the procession may have headlights on during the daytime. Some vehicles may display small flags attached to the hood or antenna. The vehicles often travel in a close line with little space between them. Typically, the procession travels more slowly than regular traffic. When drivers observe these characteristics, they should recognize that the vehicles are part of a funeral procession and allow them to proceed safely. Safe driving around funeral processions. When encountering a funeral procession, drivers should remain calm and respectful. Avoid attempting to pass through or break the line of vehicles. If the procession is traveling slower than normal traffic, drivers should remain patient and allow the procession to proceed. Passing a funeral procession should only be done when it is safe and legal, and never by crossing into the line of vehicles. Drivers should also avoid honking, aggressive driving, or sudden lane changes near a procession. Remember that the people in these vehicles may be grieving and emotionally affected. Respectful driving behavior helps ensure a safe and dignified journey for the procession. If you are part of a funeral procession, if you are driving in a funeral procession, there are several important safety practices to follow. Keep your headlights on so that other drivers can recognize the procession. Maintain a safe following distance while still staying with the group. Avoid sudden stops or abrupt lane changes. Follow the lead vehicle and obey instructions from funeral escorts or police officers directing traffic. Drivers must remain alert and drive carefully, even though the procession may receive certain right-of-way considerations. Safety should always remain the priority. Conclusion. Funeral processions are an important tradition that allows families and friends to honor their loved ones. Drivers who encounter funeral processions should respond with patience, caution, and respect. Remember these key safety rules. Recognize the signs of a funeral procession. Do not cut into or break the line of vehicles. Allow the procession to pass safely through intersections. Drive calmly and respectfully near the procession. By following these guidelines, drivers help maintain both safety on the roadway and dignity for those participating in the procession. Safe driving means respecting others on the road, especially during moments of loss and remembrance.